So next on the agenda is actually me. So thank you to those who are staying on and those who are just joining me now for this talk. So let's, Pete, can you start the slide presentation, please? Thank you. Next slide. So before I get started, I want to briefly say who I am. Well, I have already said, I'm Leila. My name is Leila. I'm the education lead at Plant-Based Health Professionals UK and a nutritionist at Plant-Based Health Online. I'm actually a qualified doctor, but I'm not practicing anymore. I had to give up for health reasons. And after that, I did my diploma in personal training. I also became an exercise referral instructor. Just what Dr. Chidi was saying earlier, that GPs actually prescribe exercise for those who have health issues, those who are suffering from depression, high blood pressure, diabetes. So I wanted to be able to actually write a workout program for those people. And then later I discovered the whole food plant-based diet and transitioned from a junk food vegan to a no-oil whole food plant-based diet. And that is when my health improved. And that is when I actually found my real passion, which is nutrition. So I obtained a master's degree in clinical and public health nutrition. And, something else happened at the same time, when I changed my diet. I had a rotator cuff injury and I had a partial muscle tear. So I hadn't been able to work out. I hadn't trained for months. I was just doing rehab exercises with a resistance band and a 1 kg dumbbell. And, just a few days after I started my new diet of, whole food plants, I noticed significant improvement in my shoulder pain and I could start lifting weights. And, before that, I could barely manage one press up. And within a few days of this new diet, I could do 5 press ups. Now, I know 5 is nothing, but going from 0 to 5 after a partial muscle tear was huge. As an amateur athlete, that actually got my attention. And so for the last 2 years, sports nutrition has been my focus. Next slide. So today I'm going to talk about 7 nutrition hacks for plant-based athletes. Just as a car needs fuel to run, athletes need food. And, you wouldn't put diesel in an electric car, would you? So knowing what fuel your body needs is important to, optimize your training and avoid a decline in your performance. And when it comes to sports nutrition, there are many factors to consider. What sport do you actually do? What is your goal? How much time do you want to invest actually in your training? And what is your current fitness level? Any medical history? And many other factors. But there are certain things that all athletes, amateur and professional athletes, but also hobby exercisers, especially those following a vegan diet, they need to be aware of, and they can benefit from those foods. So that is going to be the focus of my talk today. Next slide. So nutrition hack number 1, eat enough food. This sounds very simple, but you'll be surprised to hear that one of the main reasons athletes fail to improve their performance, get faster or build muscle, despite the best training programs, is because they're not consuming enough calories. Now, when you work out, you take part in races and competitions, your body actually burns a huge amount of energy. So you're burning a lot of calories. So that means you need to eat enough food to meet that increased demand for calories. Next, please. And when it comes to plant-based diets, it's even more important actually to pay attention to this, because we know that plant foods tend to have low calorie density. So, which means you can eat large portions without actually eating a lot of calories. And this is a good thing. And that is the reasons why vegans have lower body mass index. And it also helps athletes actually to maintain their weight and reduce body fat. But that means if you are physically active, you need to pay more attention to what you eat and how much you eat. Now, carbs and protein provide only 4 calories per gram, whereas fats provide 9 calories per gram. Now, that doesn't mean that, if you're physically active, you should go and eat a high-fat diet. That's not what I'm saying. But knowing that helps athletes actually add healthy sources of fats into their diet, and that way they can actually meet the increased demand for calories. So nuts, seeds, nut butters, and avocados are an athlete's best friend. And one easy way to make sure that you hit your calorie target is just by having a smoothie. You add flax seeds, chia seeds, avocados, any nut butters you like, and you can also add some of the other foods I'm going to mention later in the talk. Next, please. Nutrition hack number 2, keep hydrated. This is something that is not really talked about very often, but it is very important and plays actually a huge role in athletic performance. Whenever we exercise, we actually raise our body temperature, and then the body tries to cool down by sweating. So we are losing water and salt to our skin. And the amount of sweating really depends on intensity and duration of the exercise, the temperature in your environment, and even the clothing you are wearing while working out. But it is important to replace that lost fluid, because even a mild degree of dehydration actually can affect concentration and cause headaches and tiredness. And at the same time, drinking too much, overhydration, can also impair our training. So we need to find the right balance for your chosen sport and activity level. Next, please. So the benefits of good hydration are a slowing of the exercise-induced rise in heart rate and body temperature, better blood flow to the skin, which helps to avoid heat exhaustion. And even post-exercise, having a good hydration is important. Muscle protein synthesis only happens in well-hydrated muscles. And, any recovery food that we eat needs actually to be digested. And for that to happen, we need to have enough fluid in our gastrointestinal tract. Now, an optimal hydration regimen starts actually ideally 24 hours before an event, before a race, because if your body is in a dehydrated state, you need at least 24 hours to rehydrate yourself. And the best way to find out whether you are well hydrated is actually by assessing the color of urine. If the urine is clear, then it means your hydration is good. So what you want to do is 1 to 2 hours before the event, you can have 1 to 2 glasses of fluid, and then a few sips before the event. Now, during the training, again, it depends on how long your workout is, how much you are going to sweat, and how hot it is. And of course, you want to avoid drinking too much, because then you would be forced to be using the bathroom. So most athletes, develop their own strategy, what works best for them. In general, if you're exercising less than an hour, water is enough. But if you are, training and working out more than an hour, especially if it is, longer than 1.5, 2 hours, and you usually sweat a lot, then you need to add some sodium to your drink, and also some glucose, because that's what your working muscles need. So ideally, a good sport drink has actually 6 to 7% carbs and 100 to 200 milligrams of sodium per cup. You can actually make your own sport drink. You just need to calculate a little bit, so it's that makes it complicated, but it is possible. And then after the training, again, you need to make sure that whatever you have lost, you replace it. And in general, the idea is that for every 1 kilogram loss of body weight, we should drink 1 to 1.5 liter of fluid. But make sure to do it slowly. You don't want to drink too much in one go. Next, please. Nutrition hack number 3, dates and nuts. Now, a handful of dates and nuts, it's so easy to carry wherever you go. Whether you go to the gym, or you're going for a long run, or you're just meeting your friends in the park, for a ball game, football, volleyball, or basketball, or whatever you enjoy doing. I actually believe every athlete who's not allergic to nuts should carry a small bag of dates and nuts with them all the time. Next, please. Dates are comprised of simple sugars, so they can be easily digested, and they give you an instant boost of energy. And that's actually what you need when you have worked out hard, or you ran a race, and you just need an instant energy boost so that you can carry on. But that's not the only reason why I recommend dates. I think dates contain iron, magnesium, potassium. They are high in fiber, rich in antioxidants, so they protect from free radicals. They are also a rich source of vitamin B6, which boosts memory and cognitive function. They are also rich in calcium, magnesium, and copper, and all these nutrients are actually essential for good bone health. Nuts contain protein, healthy fats, fiber, vitamin E, magnesium, and many other nutrients. And they are also loaded with antioxidants, so they can help you fight, exercise-induced oxidative stress. That is what Dr. Chidi was referring to earlier. So, for example, walnuts are a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. Just 3 to 4 walnuts provide your daily recommended amount of omega-3. Almonds contain actually more protein than most other nuts, and they're also high in antioxidants. And there is some research showing that almonds may actually have a prebiotic effect. So they actually may help your good gut bacteria to grow. So that's another reason to have them. Then cashews, they actually provide more iron, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, copper, selenium, and vitamin K than any other tree nut. A lot of people actually refer to cashews as nutritional powerhouses. And, cashews are an important part of a vegan diet anyway. We make creamy sauces with them, or a lot of vegan cheeses are actually made of cashews. So it's very easy to incorporate them in your diet. Then pistachios, they're actually very unique because they provide two nutrients called lutein and zeaxanthin. And those are associated with reducing the risk of age-related macular degeneration. And the last nut I want to mention is Brazil nut, which is a very good source of selenium. In fact, just 1 to 2 per day is enough to hit your daily recommended amount. And don't worry if you're allergic to nuts, because there are more tips to incorporate in your diet. Next, please. Legumes. I believe no matter what sport you do, whether you are trying to bulk up or lose weight, you want legumes on your team. These small kind of, beans and pulses are really nutritional superstars. And the good thing is there is a large variety to choose from, so you'll never get bored of them. Next, please. So legumes are a good source of protein, and they're also high in complex carbohydrates. And this combination makes them the perfect meal or snack for athletes. And beans and pulses have a low glycemic index, which means they don't cause a spike in your blood sugar. And I want to explain a little bit why we want to avoid actually a blood sugar spike. Because whenever there is a spike in our blood glucose levels, the body makes more insulin. And over time, the body becomes resistant to high insulin levels. And that is what we refer to as, insulin resistance. And insulin sensitivity is important because insulin helps glucose to be transported into our muscles, and as an athlete, that is very important. And also, insulin resistance impairs muscle growth. So that is, again, something else, to consider. Now, legumes are also rich in phytonutrients. So they reduce inflammation, oxidative stress, and they help athletes actually to deal better with the exercise-induced inflammation. They're also a great source of folate. Now, folate actually reduces the level of an amino acid, which is called homocysteine. And homocysteine in high levels can actually damage blood vessel walls. So by reducing those levels, folate actually can help protect the heart and reduce the risk of heart disease. Legumes also have nutrients such as B6, iron, manganese, magnesium, zinc, copper, and a lot more. So what I'm going to do is next, I'll have a look at the nutrition content of some of the common legumes. And I like to start with my own favorite one. Next, please. Chickpeas. 1 cup of cooked chickpeas has 32 grams of carbs and about 14.5 grams of protein. And I think that makes them a great post-workout food. You can have hummus or just a bowl of roasted chickpeas. And, chickpeas are also a good source of protein because they contain all essential amino acids except methionine. So as long as you're actually having some form of whole grain throughout the day, not in the same meat, you don't need to have it at the same time. But as long as you have it at some point, because whole grains are high in methionine, then you get all the essential amino acids you need in a day. Chickpeas are also packed with nutrients like, B6 and folate. Both of them are very important for red blood cell production. Iron can be actually a nutrient of concern for athletes, so a good source of iron. And they also they have magnesium, manganese. Now, manganese is not a nutrient we commonly talk about, but it's actually very important for brain and bone health. Then a good source of zinc. Zinc is important for immune system. Next, please. Kidney beans, again, another great bean with 29 grams of carbohydrates and 15 grams of protein. And I'm not going to go through all the different nutrients that kidney beans contain, but as you can see, it's full of nutrients. Next, please. Lentils, again, 17 grams of protein, and it actually provides 37% of your daily recommended iron, so a good source of iron to have. Next, please. Soybeans, actually a very good source of protein because it contains enough of all the essential amino acids. Now, I'm sure everybody knows that getting enough protein on a plant-based diet is not a problem, and you don't need to worry about, essential amino acids as long as you have a variety of different plant proteins throughout the day. But soybeans are quite actually popular among athletes because, they are high in calories and they have a lot of, as you can see, a lot of different nutrients. And yes, they do have all the essential amino acids. Next, please. Nutrition hack number 5, beetroot. Next. Now, the reason beetroots are so great for athletes is because of the nitrates in beets. Nitrates actually improve the vasodilatation, so it makes your blood vessels expand. And that way, the blood can actually provide more oxygen and glucose to the working muscles, and at the same time, remove carbon dioxide and lactic acid. And studies have shown that consuming beetroot can increase the time to exhaustion, especially during high-intensity exercise. Now, I also want to mention something else. The nitrate need to be converted to nitrite, and then in the gut it becomes nitric oxide. And for that to happen, the whole conversion actually starts in our mouth. So the bacteria in the mouth are involved. And the reason I'm mentioning that is, some people like to use toothpaste or mouthwash after they have eaten or drunk. And if you do that, if you use toothpaste and mouthwash, you may actually interrupt the conversion. So bear that in mind. And another thing is that studies have shown that actually drinking beetroot juice is more effective than supplementation. So no need to waste your money on supplements. And it is really easy to have beets in your diet. You can cook them or you can have them raw, in your smoothies, in your salads, and it's as I said, easy and quite tasty. Next, please. So herbs and spices, they are full of antioxidants. And, when we add them to our foods, they improve the flavor, but they can also actually boost your athletic performance. And there are obviously many different herbs and spices, and all of them have health benefits. And I could probably just give a talk on, talking about that. But this is a short talk, so I'm just going to focus on 3 ones, which I believe are used quite a lot in everyday cooking and which can help you. Next, please. So the first is turmeric. I'm sure many of you use this every day. I know I do. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, which is really good at fighting inflammation. And by reducing the inflammation, it improves actually joint function and mobility. Turmeric has also, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds, so it helps to reduce the post-workout muscle soreness. Turmeric improves the brain function. It also helps with the mood, so it actually reduces depression. It supports the immune system, but you need to make sure that you always add black pepper to turmeric, because black pepper contains a compound called piperine, and that increases the absorption of curcumin. So make sure to have it together. You don't need to have a lot. I think the ratio is like kind of 1:20. So just a bit of black pepper, a dash of black pepper, added to turmeric is enough. Next spice is ginger. It is also an antioxidant. It fights inflammation. It is great for post-workout muscle soreness. There was actually a randomized controlled study in 2010 that showed the consumption of 2 grams fresh ginger can significantly reduce muscle soreness, especially post-workout. So ginger can actually be used as an analgesic, and so it reduces pain and stiffness, and it can even help you, if you have headaches. It helps with digestion too. But bear in mind, if sometimes we believe if something is good, then if you have more, it is better. It's not always the case, and it's definitely not when it comes to ginger. I mean, if you take more than 4 grams of ginger per day, it can cause some adverse effects. Nothing major, just stomach upset, heartburn, bloating, but still, just bear that in mind. So the ideal kind of dose seems to be like 2 grams per day. That's all you need to have. Next, please. So parsley. It contains more chlorophyll than most vegetables. It's high in anti-inflammatory compounds. And actually just 1 cup of parsley offers 70% of your daily vitamin C. It's also high in vitamin K, and vitamin K is important for calcium absorption. So it is parsley is good for bone health. And all these herbs and spices, herb and spices I mentioned, you can easily add them to your smoothies, or just sprinkle them, on your salad or on your soup. And by now, I'm sure you have noticed that I talk a lot about smoothies, and I do really believe that smoothies are actually a great way of having a lot of antioxidants in a glass. But also, smoothies can help you to consume more calories if needed. And another thing is, if there's anything you don't like, just toss it in your blender with the other stuff and you won't even taste it. So again, it's a good way of having those vegetables and fruits you don't really enjoy that much, it masks the taste. But make sure that you don't have coffee or tea an hour before and after your smoothie, because tea and coffee have tannins which reduce the iron absorption. And as I mentioned earlier, and iron can actually be a nutrient of concern for athletes. Even some herbal teas contain tannins, even green tea. So never have kind of green tea before and after your smoothie, and never ever add it to your smoothie, obviously. So bear that in mind, please. Next. Supplements. Now, I'm not talking about performance-enhancing drugs. Performance-enhancing drugs are still controversial, and I personally believe they are not necessary. And I'm always surprised but delighted to see that some top athletes don't use any. And, the other thing is the safety of a lot of the performance-enhancing drugs hasn't been actually tested beyond a few years. So even if you do choose to use them, just do that with caution. You don't want to temporarily actually increase your performance, improve it, and then long-term have health problems. So look into that. You don't really, as I said, I don't recommend them myself. But nutrition hack number 7 is, I'm talking about essential supplements a plant-based athlete needs. Next, please. So the first one is B12. This one is a must. And, it's actually a must for all who follow a vegan diet, even if you're not physically active. And I'm still surprised to come across vegans who ask me, do I need to take B12? Yes, you do. All of us, we do need to take a B12. It is almost non-negotiable, and it is very important. B12 is required for red blood cell formation, for neurological function, for DNA synthesis. So it's a very important vitamin. And also the problem is, it's not really a problem, but one of the issues is that if you have a mild deficiency, it can actually be masked if your folate levels are high. And we know that vegans tend to have high folate intake. So that's why you may actually have a mild deficiency and not know it. So, and that's, again, another reason why we recommend that you have a blood test every year. So, you really should do that. Now, some vegans, like myself, we choose to obtain our B12 via fortified plant milks or nutritional yeast, which is possible. I have been doing it since I went vegan. Sorry, my cat just joined me. And, if you want to do that, make sure that you still top up once in a while. So take a supplement once in a while. And the reason I'm saying that is because, whenever you want to get your nutrients from fortified foods, it is very difficult to kind of determine if you're getting enough. I do know people who are drinking 4 or 5 glasses of soy milk, fortified soy milk every day, and then having nutritional yeast, on everything they eat. But still, it is difficult to be certain. So just take a supplement once in a while. I do that, you know. And in general, my advice to people is to take a supplement, and you just need 50 microgram per day or 2000 microgram once a week. And the difference in dosage is just because of the way B12 is absorbed in our body. Now, next, the vitamin supplement you need is vitamin D. Vitamin D is needed for healthy bones because, you know, it promotes actually calcium absorption. So it is important, but it also has like other functions, you know, neuromuscular and immune functions. We get vitamin D by exposure to sunlight. And you can imagine living in a country like the UK, like today, there is no sun. So that can be actually a problem. And in fact, vitamin D deficiency is actually very common in the UK. You know, around 23% of adults have low vitamin D status, and in winter months that actually number rises to like 40-45%. And that's why Public Health England recommends that everyone in the UK over the age of 5 takes a supplement from October to March. Now, certain groups of athletes are at risk of deficiency, and they may want to consider taking regular supplementation. So, for example, those with darker skin, and those with insufficient sun exposure just during winter. But also, you know, if you're doing a lot of indoor training, so even if it is summer, there is a lot of sun out there, it's nice, but you are stuck indoors, then you're not getting the exposure. So bear that in mind. Or you are actually, your sport requires you to be outdoors, but you're using a lot of sunscreen. So you are again not getting enough. So bear that in mind. And you don't want to have low vitamin D levels because, as I said, that would reduce your calcium absorption and that would increase the risk of stress fractures in athletes. You don't need much. You just need 10 microgram per day. And yes, and you know, just make sure that it is a vegan version because yes, vitamin D3 can be from animals as well. So just look for make sure to check for that. So last mineral I want to discuss is iodine. Again, a very important mineral. It's a component of thyroid hormones and involved in so many biochemical reactions in the body. And deficiency is actually very common, and that's why many countries have iodized their salt. So to make sure that the general population is actually getting enough iodine. Plants, vegetables, fruits, they can have iodine, but it depends on the level of iodine in the soil. So again, not reliable. A lot of vegans choose to take seaweed. That is seaweed has iodine. So that is one option. I actually recommend athletes to use iodized salt. All you need is just really 3 grams of iodized salt, which is half a teaspoon, and it is still lower than what the WHO considers safe, so it's not a lot. Or you just take a supplement, 150 microgram a day. Next, please. So that is just a recap of what I discussed. Next. These are the references. If you want them, next, please. And yes, if you want the references or if you want to, have one of these slides, just email me. And you can also find me at, I have a website, drleiladeh.com. And you can also find me on Plant-Based Health online. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to just go through the comments and see if there have been any questions because there's nobody else to check for me. So let me have a look. Why you are putting on more weight? Well, okay. The reason is, although plants have low calorie density, but it is, again, when it comes to weight loss or weight gain, there are a lot of different factors which play a role. And I mentioned smoothies quite a lot, but I don't actually recommend smoothies to people who are trying to lose weight because you can actually drink your calories without noticing. So you won't feel full, but you have taken actually a lot of calories. So yes, it really depends on what you are eating. Maybe you're having more fats. As I said, fats have more calories per gram. That could be one reason. But it could also be like kind of, some other problems, lack of exercise and stress. We had this talk on stress. Stress actually can, promote weight gain. So it's difficult to know without actually looking at your food diary and having a lifestyle, looking at your lifestyle to say why. But there are many reasons. So it doesn't necessarily need to be food. Let's put it that way. Good. Any special recommendations for teenagers? I don't know what you mean, like in general about if they are physically active. Well, in teenagers, as you know, they probably need more protein. I mean, I don't usually say to people that, you know, they need to calculate and measure how much protein they need, and I would still not do that in teenagers. As long as they are eating enough calories, they will get enough protein. So I would, again, you know, I don't want to say like all these 7 hacks I mentioned, that any of them is important. But if I wanted to actually point to 3 of them, I would say make sure to eat enough food, keep hydrated, and take the supplements, which, you know, a plant-based athlete needs. So if you do these 3, especially eating enough foods, that is actually one of the main reasons people don't improve their performance and don't do well. So that, and I think especially with teenagers, they have high metabolism, so that is going to be probably one of the main you know, things to watch out for. Good. Thank you very much. Sorry if I have missed any questions. I'll go later to Facebook, and if I see any questions, I will answer there.